All right. Welcome one, welcome all. Happy to have you guys here. And we're back by popular demand, I'll say. Somewhat of that effect. And I am back with, some tea to soothe, the voice, the throat. All right. So we're going to have a quick conversation regarding, the games for tomorrow, the DaCosta Cup games in the context of, some predictions. All right. So you can be a part of this interactive conversation by joining us in the live chat. You can also join us on screen. The link is pinned in the chat there. So you'll see that the on-screen link in the chat. And you can also join us via WhatsApp call. So that number is also shared in the chat. Welcome one, welcome all as we build here. Please remember to hit the like button, the share button, and of course the subscription button. We saw what happened today in the man income competition. All right, we know the two teams who are moving forward in the final, St. Catherine and Heidel. So, what will happen in the semi-final games come tomorrow for the DaCosta Cup? And Ovi, I know that you're here, and I am wondering, before we even get into the predictions, what are your views on a DaCosta Cup, a rural competition playing at, the national stadium, urban area? So I'm not sure if you're still here with us. Let me just double check here. No, not seeing Ovi, but I guess Ovi will be in a little bit, but we'll just love to know from you guys. So again, welcome one, welcome all. Let's keep this conversation very interactive. And I'm working on the voice. I have my tea here. So I want to hear from you. And I guess the first question before we get into the predictions. All right, before we get into the predictions, what is your take on a rural competition going to Kingston? All right, so would love to hear from you in that context. So, Ovi, I am not sure if you heard that question and you're able to respond, but would love to hear from you first before we get into some predictions.
All right, so for me, it's kind of I'm not sure how they would do that. In terms of if they are wanting the best facilities, I guess going to the national stadium would be is okay for me. But if it's a case where they're catering to the needs and for the support of teams, then I think going to play in the communities would be the best, whether it's Glenmuir or somewhere in Montego Bay. But I don't think you will find both teams being extremely happy either way, knowing that they're not necessarily going to play the match at their, let's say, their home ground. So if it's a case where they want to move forward, saying that if you win if you are in the final, or use some sort of stuff to decide where the match will be played. So in terms of you scoring the most goals for the season, or once you make it to the final, then you get the match. I don't know, but playing at the National Stadium, I'm not too perturbed about it, to be honest, because it would be, I would say, the best facilities for the players to play, and that's where you want their talent to shine.
Yeah, I totally get that too. Fantastic sharing there, but it's just the sentiment where you wouldn't have corporate schools going to Catrinall or the Trelawney multipurpose stadium to play. But, the requirement that the country schools, should go to town for semifinals, not even like it's a final, semifinals plus finals And so that part too, and I suspect Ben Francis will also be played there. And a lot of it has to do with, I guess, the TV airtime and that part. So we're wondering in that context if that is kind of watering down the competition overall in terms of the richness, the culture, what we have come to expect in the context of, schoolboy football. So, would love to hear from you guys too in that context. And don't be afraid to join us on screen. You don't need to show any camera, it's voices. So as long as we're hearing you, and you can join via WhatsApp as well. The WhatsApp line is open if you'd like to share, and as well you can share in the chat as always. All right, so I guess, with that said, let's get down to some business here. Ocho Rios and McGrath High, they will meet, I believe, first. Their game is up first. Let me just double check that. I believe they are going to play first. And of you can jump in and spare me if you know the context there. But they should be meeting first. I'm just trying to find that information here. Yes, so they should be meeting first at 3:30 p.m. Ocho Rios High, McGrath High. All right, so this game now, in terms of the analysis here that I am going to present, before I actually get into, what I perhaps believe I might see tomorrow, it's I'm going to present my analyses. All right, let's go. So one is that, McGrath, they have gotten a little bit more time to rest, I would say, if I'm not mistaken, than Ocho Rios High. I think McGrath, they lost in the very first round to Jamaica College, right? In the Champions Cup. And just the way they played their McGrath, I wasn't overly impressed with McGrath in that because from what we can recall, JC, they went down, so their keeper went out. So JC, they were playing with literally 10 players. And if you want to look excluding the keeper, 9 players there. And McGrath, they could not control that game or dominate that game, right? And so in that context, to me, that is something of a weakness for the team in that context. And over on the other side, I saw a different Ocho Rios when they played. Come on, Ovi, help me out here. The game that Ocho played before meeting Glenmuir. Do you remember the team? All right, I am not hearing from Ovi. Ovi, where are you? All right, but Ochi, I'll get the school back in my head. Ochi, they were looking very well in that context, in that game. I'll get the school. Just give me a moment, right? And then, when they met Denver, that was totally different. And then that was the second time for the schoolboy football season that Ochi was facing off with Glenmuir. All right. So in this context, I would say Ocho is perhaps the stronger of the two in terms of McGrath and Ocho, but I wouldn't be too surprised because and then this is the other part of it too, that and this is something that I always speak about. Remember in that quarterfinal round, right? Glenmuir, they faced McGrath. McGrath was in that zone, and Stats as well as From Tech, right? We were expecting From to defeat McGrath. That did not happen, but McGrath found enough goals to deny Stats the opportunity of moving forward with Glenmuir. So I was wondering, what happened, or it's a case, but then it's an indication too that Frontech, they were focusing on the Ben Francis Cup competition and no longer interested in the D Cup, even though they had the opportunity to decide whether a team move forward or not to the semis. And so, with that, I am always saying we need to have the games played at the same time to prevent these things because a team can decide, all right, you know what? Since we're not gonna make this particular team move on or that particular team move on. And so we need to find a way to kind of prevent that from happening. And I guess the best way to do that, we might not be able to eliminate all the possibilities, but the best way to do that is to ensure that the games are played at the same time on the same day.
Just to butt in a little bit, Ocho Rios played against St. Catherine in the quarterfinals.
Okay, fantastic. And they look good.
They beat St. Catherine 2-0 in the quarterfinals.
So I don't know if you want to share some more. I was talking about, I guess you heard Ocho Rios and McGrath and saying that Ocho Rios should have the better of McGrath tomorrow. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I agree with the points that you raised in terms of them not being able to put JC under more pressure when they went down to 10 players and take that game or at least, dominate that game. That was a big sign. And, the way how they played against when they came up against Glenmuir in the semifinal, Glenmuir really dominated them as well. So I don't have them beating Ocho Rios.
All right, fantastic there. So, yeah, so that's another situation there in that context. So, in the context of scores, Ovi, I'm going to come over to you for this one. Ocho Rios McGrath, what's the score line? Ovi?
I missed that. Please repeat that one.
Oh, I was asking in the context of the score line, Ocho Rios McGrath, what's the score for tomorrow?
Ocho Rios McGrath, I'm thinking Ocho Rios will beat them 2 goals to 0 in that one. That's my prediction.
Yeah, just around, I was saying 2-1 to myself, in favor of Ocho Rios. McGrath, they tend to, then they don't seem to be an attacking team in terms of going for. And so that could be, but who knows, if those instructions will change come tomorrow for Team McGrath, and that would be something that, we'll look out for. Ocho Rios, I believe they just need to continue play for 90 plus minutes, and they should be good. I think they have had enough in terms of playing with a Glenmuir, in terms of how they can improve on their game. And once they're playing to beat a Glenmuir, play McGrath if they're playing to beat a Glenmuir, I believe they should be good. Ocho Rios there. All right, so with the Glenmuir Garvey, I'm going to send it over to you first for you to share your analysis of Glenmuir Garvey and let us and then I'll add my portion.
So then your Derby meets in a semi-final and Clarendon Derby. Definitely going with Glenmuir for this one. Garvey has been living on the edge with, with how they have qualified and gotten through the rounds. And, that kind of keep them as a wild card. But they're going up against Glenmuir, who has, the best record throughout the cup this year. And, what happened, Demure has found themselves in some precarious position and have found a way to come back into the game, and not just coming back into the game, but coming back to win. And that is amazing how they are able to go through, not, no, not saying they're going to die in terms of losing a game, but they continue to press on, continue to believe, and continue to execute. I must laud the coach for his role that he's playing with this team. He has made some strategical moves in order to take care of his certain opponents, and he has a strong bench that he can call upon to change the dynamic of the game and also the play. So Glenmuir is a pretty well, oiled team. On the other hand, Garvey Maceo has good players. We can remember Obi, the number 11 there, who is a pretty skillful player. He's there still. If they are able to find a way to stop Glenmuir from scoring and they can push forward, they should be able to. They could give Glenmuir some challenge. And yes, but it's hard to see Garvey Maceo beating Glenmuir tomorrow. But the ball is round, so we'll have to go in and see how that one pans out. It's a big game too, in terms of it's a semi-final, and that might affect the way how persons play. Many of these kids probably not have not played at the national stadiums before, and have so many people watching, and
But
with the
Garvey,
cameras and everything else.
they got that other day because they're in the Champions Cup, so they're good to go.
Well, let's see. As I said, it's another competition, another semi-finals. They didn't make it through in terms of the Champions Cup too, so that's another
But
thing.
that was
Glenmuir
played
had,
at the finals, so at the stadium, sorry. So I mean, if it's the
yeah, I
national
understand.
stadium,
Yes, I understand what you're saying for sure. But I'm saying it is another competition too, and they wouldn't have the best experience there either. So I understand what you're saying. They have been there, done that, but to go back again, let's see how they represent themselves. Passing over to you.
fantastic there. Andy, welcome. Before I move to my portion there, Andy shared in the chat that McGrath is going to win 3 goals to 1. All right. So, Andy, if you want to join us to just share, you can. So, several ways you can join us. Well, you can join us on screen. All right. Just follow the link there. That is pinned in the chat, or you can give us a WhatsApp call. All right. So, pretty much agreeing with what you shared, over with Glenmuir Garvey. Glenmuir, They they are prepared, I'll say physically, psychologically, and intellectually when it comes on to the football. And so that is something. So that is what, and especially the psychological edge, they tend to have this over a lot of teams, right? And so the ball, yes, it's physical, but a lot of it is psychological. And we see Glenmuir's psychological or mental strength, you know, in the many times that they have had to come from behind to dominate and eventually win games. In the last, I guess, 2 games, that has not been the case. They have really taken control in terms of scoring first, I believe. KC and in that Champions Cup final, right? And so, that is something there to watch too. But they have come from behind, so many times to kind of show us that, they can do it in any weather. And people tell you that if it is raining, then it's going to be a Glenmuir day. But it's not just the rain. Rain or shine, they are ready. and they are prepared for any eventuality. And they have a very tactical coach who definitely knows, as Ovi would share, when to make the changes, know, when to get someone off the bench in terms of re-strategizing because the players on the bench, they too can win games. And so it's a very strong team. All right, so with that said, Garvey Maceo, big up OB and OB. I really appreciate that message. I wonder if I have it queued up where I could play. And that's the number 11. A very fantastic, talented player. And I see him going, and I think he's going to score tomorrow, OB. The thing is, though, with OB, and I hope the coach, and from my checks, the last interview too, it wasn't Meron Garden who was at Garvey. I don't know if Garvey is still taking instructions from him. But Meron, big up yourself anywhere you're there. Big up yourself, assistant coach to Jamaica's Reggae Boys team. All right. So what has happened is that Garvey Maceo, for the last few times, has just been too predictable in terms of how they're playing the ball. So you can always see a pass coming through, coming over to OB. It's just always predictable. So a lot of times they're going to try to cut him out or just try to leave him where he's not necessarily going to have the support that he needs to perhaps, put a pass over into the box because I'm just trying to visualize. He's always perhaps on my left or to the screen's right, positioned there waiting for that ball to come over. So in that context, Garvey just needs to sharpen up. So I have Glenmuir for the win for this one, and it's very heartbreaking when we see two Clarendon teams going head to head. And again, it's like it's written in stone. Clarendon, we won't see two Clarendon teams in the final, albeit the fact that if we look at this season, the parish had put out quite a few strong teams. Ovi, remind me again how many teams were in the round of 16? Eight. All right, not hearing from Ovi, but I could perhaps do a quick count. So we had Garvey, Maceo, Glenmuir, Kemsil, right? Denby, Central, Clarendon College. So that's six. Alphonsus, that's
There
seven.
was
I know I'm
19.
nine,
Nine in
nine
the 16,
teams,
round of 16.
nine teams in the round of 16. So it's as if, and a lot of, clashes, Clarendon clashes, but it is what it is. And so right now, what I'm saying, the likely finals for the D Cup is perhaps going to be Glenmuir Ocho Rios. No, Glenmuir could be tired because they just played the Champions Cup right through. So Garvey can capitalize on that because they failed to move forward, so they got the opportunity to rest. So if Garvey should apply the pressure and just come ready to just non-stop energy, non-stop pacing, non-stop moving, Glenmere is strong enough, but use those factors, the fact that they have been playing so many games back to back pretty much in the Champions Cup, and they just played the other day, Saturday, the finals, and so just use that as their, as their advantage in terms of moving forward, then that could work for them because they are more rested. And that was one of the things too that I was asking about in that context. Should we give, priority to the Manning and DaCosta Cup competitions? Because when we look at the recovery time for some of the teams, like we saw JC today, I can understand why Coach Ferguson would say congratulations to Issa. JC, the turnaround time, to play St. Catherine, who again, did not, move far in the competition, was very short. So Tuesday into Saturday, that kind of Saturday into Tuesday, that kind of thing. And then, from Tuesday to Friday for the final because of TV time. So we need to fix up that. But yeah, what we're saying here, I guess, is that, it's likely, and again, the ball is round, anything can happen, going to be a Ochi Glenmuir final. And if that's the case, I don't know, Ochi perhaps gonna say Glenmuir a third time must be the charm, that kind of thing. But we'll definitely see what happens in this context tomorrow. So back over to you, Ovi, just to find out, if you have anything else to add to this conversation. All right, so we're
Yes,
not here.
I'll just
Okay, go
add my
ahead.
voice on what you have said just now. So, like the recovery time, it's going to be a balance still. For me, it's two things that will have factor in terms of like a team like Glenmuir who has played so much in terms of playing the full gone all the way in terms of the Champions Cup and actually win it. So the thing is, Glenmuir is coming off a win and they have been playing, games in and out and in and out. So they have that chemistry, they have that, readiness in terms of game time. So that's the good thing about Glenmuir in terms of them playing, so many games. They have that game time. Being out there in competitive football will, influence how they play on the park. But, we have the flip side to that as well, where they have not been getting that extra time to recoup and recover. And that was going to be the downside of it. The downside of it. So
Ovi,
when I wait up on
just a quick comment here. I think you like this one from Andy in the chat. Andy's saying Glenn Muir's bench, and I heard you said this before, is deep, so fatigue shouldn't be a big factor for them.
yeah, for sure. And yes, and the good observation as well. Yeah, they have a deep bench, and what I realized too with Coach Peart, he once he wins the games, once he have the games won, he makes substitutions to get out some of his starters from off the field, and that point that he raised just now just brought my mind back to that. When they were playing against Tex, they closed out the game pretty much, and then they made a few changes, and just resting some of the players, not letting them play a full 90 minutes. So I totally agree with the bench strength there, and I'm sure he's always set in terms of balance for his players. So in terms of them, I think they are up for this and they have had their mindset on winning the double. And I think that's where their heart is. So I think they're going to do really well. And, it's going to take Garvey Maceo's best game to take them down. So that's pretty much what I have to add in terms of that. So as I said, it's game time out there for Glenmuir, which is nice and fine. And you could look on it from the standpoint that Garvey Monsieur has not played any competitive games for how many, for a week or a week and a half. So how will that affect them as well? So it's a thin line, and it's just for the coach to keep them, upbeat and keep them attuned on what the task is ahead is. So that's kind of where I'm at when it comes down to these two. But from the season has started, the games have been pretty much like these, for the Asta Cup, usually it's a Wednesday, Saturday game, a few days between. So hopefully the players are fully refreshed and are able to go out there and do their best.
All right, thank you so much for sharing there. Fantastic. All right, guys, let me see. I'm just checking to see if there are any new comments in the chat because we're going to put a lid on this one. We've been here all day, but by popular demand, we had to do this one to just share our quick views in terms of some predictions. But what we did not share, scoreline for Glenmuir Garvey. I'm going to say 3-1 in favor of Glenmuir. Obi, what's your score?
I don't have Garvey Maceo for scoring, so I'm going to say 3-0 to Glenmuir.
Okay, so 3-1 and you're saying 3-0. All right, in favor of Glenmuir. I'll give in one to
Yeah.
OB. Sorry.
All right. No, no worries, no worries, no worries. And just on the point that I was making, I should have added this because this would support your line of conversation as it relates to the teams and the amount of games that they played, and teams getting a little bit more rest than others. So in that game today with Jamaica College and the St. Catherine, that's a typical case where probably the JC team did not recover fully from that final against Glenmuir,
Right.
and they were taken down by the St. Catherine team.
And
So,
it's a double whammy, right? Because they lost, they don't recover, and they come, you understand? So it's not
yes,
as if
yes,
they won Glenmuir and they were playing on a high. They were playing
yes,
physically,
yes,
psychologically bruised.
yeah. But to be honest, still, if I could touch on that game a little bit,
Go
you
ahead,
know,
sure.
for those two games, last games that the JC played, they struggled immensely in the final third. They weren't able to put away the chances that they got, and that came back to haunt them in the games.
And weird
So
enough
back
that you
over.
said that don't leave just yet. And it's a similar thing with Idel too. They played today the same way they played the last game, if you can remember. I could tell you that they were not going to come back because they were more now defending as opposed to attacking, failing to realize that they need to get a goal in. I don't know. To me, it was a similar game plan to their last one. What's your take on that?
Well, I guess it's similar for sure, but I don't understand the the I guess they did their best, and you just have to leave it at that. Because if you're down by a goal, you have to try to score back a goal to get back on even terms, so that you have a chance at going to penalties, or even going ahead to win the game. Because I doubt any team who goes into any of those games to not to win, and you have to play to win, or you're not going to, and that's just how it is.
All right, fantastic. And Andy is saying Glenmuir, they're going to win 4 goals to 1. All right, fantastic. So make sure we take a note of these predictions. All right, so just checking for any final comments that you have that you'd like to share before we wrap this one up. All right, so we just wanted to come back to share with you guys, our predictions because we did not get the opportunity to share them just before we ended the live earlier. All right, so we're taking this opportunity to share. And based on our predictions, Ocho Rios should win McGrath and Glenmuir should win Garvey. And it should is the operative word. So if you see McGrath beating Ocho and Garvey beating Glenmuir, it's okay. Remember now the ball is round, all right? And Andy's having McGrath to win Ocho Rios 3 goals to 1 and Glenmuir to win Garvey 4 goals to 1. All right. So, and I like that, we don't have the best in terms of what is going to happen. And that is why we have this space, Voices in Education, all right, where we can all, learn from each other. All right. And so it's not just my voice, it's our voices, right? So it's okay once we're sharing in a respectful way. That is totally fine. All right. So that's it. So in that context, then we're likely to see one thing for sure. We're likely to see one Clarendon school in the final. We can't be wrong about that one, Ovi. We can
Not
always
at
bet on
all.
that
There's going
one.
to be one Carolina team there,
You can
and
put your money on that one for sure. You can't lose.
that's a certainty. Yeah, one team will have to lose and the other one win. So that's how it goes. But
And look at it, it's two G's, two general.
oh well,
Oh my
didn't
God,
look on
it's
it from that side.
two generals, man, two G's. So one of the G's winning and one of the G's going. I don't know which one, but tomorrow we'll definitely find out. All right, so ensure that you like, ensure that you subscribe and turn on your post notification bell so that once we go live, you do not miss any updates. So the game will begin at 3:30 Jamaica time, the Ocho Rios one. So we should be here. All right, we should be here for about 3:15 there-ish. All right, for that one. Everton, thanks for being here again. Appreciate it. All right, appreciate it. We didn't do the predictions, Everton, so we're back here. And I guess we're gonna start to try and at least open up the on-screen joining because if the persons aren't joining us now, because I guess it's not something that you're familiar with. And you're used to the WhatsApp call, but nobody called this evening. So that's the situation. But Everton, before we leave, we want to hear your prediction. All right, so we're going to await your predictions in the chat. So let me see. What's your prediction for the Ochi McGrath game and the Glenmuir Garvey game? And yes, guys, I'm drinking up my warm tea, my lemon and stuff. All right, Everton, I don't know if you're still here, but hopefully that comes in at some point because we're going to put a lid on this one. All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I know a lot of persons weren't expecting this, and that is why it's important to turn on your post notification bell, all right? So that once we go live, you do not miss any updates. So, Avi, I want to thank you so much for joining and for sharing. Any final comments from your side?
Just want to thank Andy and all the other persons who came in. We really appreciate you and looking forward to seeing you guys tomorrow. So all the best. Take care.
Thank you. Fantastic. So, guys, that's it for it this evening for tonight. All right. Nothing more, nothing further, unless there's some drastic breaking news. But apart from that, that's it for the night where schoolboy football is concerned. And we'll definitely see you tomorrow. See you in the next live. Blessings and love, everyone. All right. And we're just going to sign out with some music. All right. Bye for now. Take care, everyone.